Ms. Stephen, in March of this year, the U.S. Postal Service placed its first order of next-generation delivery vehicles with Oshkosh Defense. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what was that contract, that initial contract, valued at?
I think it's been covered in the press. It's $2.98 billion for 50,000 vehicles.
So nearly a $3 billion contract that the United States Postal Service presently has with a defense contractor in order to produce these internal combustion engine vehicles. Largely. The initial order is for 50,000 next generation delivery vehicles, but from what I understand, only about 10,000 are actually required to be battery electric vehicles. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So to summarize, the USPS has contracted with Oshkosh Defense and is giving them $3 billion to build around 50,000 vehicles, 10,000 of which must be battery powered. Now, I think one note and element of context that's important to mention is that this committee has a long bipartisan history of oversight, particularly when it comes to defense contracting. This is one of the very few things that we've been able to agree upon in the past. Even when former ranking member Mark Meadows was here, this was something that that concerned him, and I hope that our current ranking member, we can continue to find agreement there. Now, Ms. Stephen, and I will say one thing about Oshkosh Defense is that they're union. They have union labor. Ms. Stephen, would you say that part of the reason, and it was an important consideration for Oshkosh Defense that they had a unionized workforce, that the United States and the USPS would be contracting with them to potentially work and fulfill this contract?
The solicitation from the Postal Service requires domestic production only. It does not require particular locations or workforce.
Yes, but was it a favorable element? Did Oshkosh mention this? Was it something that was considered? You know, there are many different contractors that are capable of domestic production.
Sure.
And the president has very clearly indicated a preference for union labor in domestic production.
It is not a contract requirement, therefore it was not an evaluation criteria or considered.
So it was not considered at all?
It was not considered in the decision.
As I understand, Oshkosh Defense does have multiple manufacturing facilities in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, that are made to build military vehicles, correct?
Military and other.
And they have a long history, established history of this. We have heard from workers on the ground that Oshkosh Defense has the capacity to build these vehicles in their existing facilities in Wisconsin. Yet we're starting to see some troubling reports. Madam Chair, for the record, I would like to submit two reports, one from the Journal Times and the other from the Herald Journal. Spartanburg fights back to keep Oshkosh Defense postal fleet project, and why Oshkosh Corp didn't build USPS vehicles in a Foxconn facility in Mount Pleasant.
Without objection.
I'd also like to submit to the record a letter from members of this committee regarding concern about the fact that Oshkosh Defense is now moving their facilities after they have won the contract.
Without objection.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens, are you aware that the announcement that next generation delivery vehicle fleet would be built in South Carolina after the Oshkosh Defense initially won the contract in having facilities in Wisconsin?
Yeah, the Postal Service was made aware of that decision shortly before the public announcement, and it is a decision that's at the discretion of the supplier.
So, are you aware that Oshkosh Defense might be trying to circumvent its longstanding contract with the United Auto Workers workforce in Wisconsin by essentially building a brand new facility after the contract was awarded in a vacant warehouse in South Carolina?
I have no awareness of that, but I would encourage you to have that conversation with Oshkosh.
Is the USPS troubled by this timeline at all?
By what was that?
By this timeline at all?
Which timelines are you referring to?
The timeline of the fact that NextGen, they had secured Oshkosh. Oshkosh presented the contract with their existing facilities. They have union labor. They were granted a $3 billion contract under the USPS under the leadership of DeJoy. And then after the ink was dry it looks like they're opening up a scab facility in South Carolina with no prior history of producing vehicles in that facility.
So I think some of the facts about what was represented in a proposal are not correct, and I would disagree with those assertions.
Okay, and so I would say that the USPS is not troubled by that timeline.
I would agree with your statement.
Thank you.